You're standing in the dairy aisle, 12 kinds of yogurt. You've been there for maybe 90 seconds, holding one, putting it back, picking up another, and somewhere around the Greek versus Icelandic decision, you realize you don't actually know what you want. Not the yogurt. Any of it. The job, the house, the second half of your life. You know exactly what you don't want. That part's crystal clear. But if someone put a gun to your head and asked what you do want, you'd stand there like the yogurt. I'm Frank, and this is the puzzle I want to walk you through, because the thing happening to you in that aisle is not a personality flaw. It's a specific psychological trap, and you were set up for it in a way that's almost impressive. Let's start with the setup, because it matters. You were the first cohort raised on a phrase that sounded like a gift and turned out to be a bill. You can be anything. Do anything. Go anywhere. Nobody meant harm by it. They thought they were handing you the sky. What they were actually handing you was a menu with no bottom. There's a psychologist named Barry Schwartz who wrote a book called The Paradox of Choice back in 2004 and updated it more recently. His argument is simple. When you give a person a few options, they pick one and feel good about it. When you give a person unlimited options, four things happen. They freeze. Their expectations climb through the roof. They pick something and then can't stop wondering about the ones they didn't pick. And when the pick disappoints them, which it will because expectations are now in orbit, they blame themselves. Not the menu, themselves. Because after all, they had every option in the world. Read that again with your own life on top of it. You had every option in the world. So if you're standing in your kitchen at 52, wondering how you ended up here, whose fault is that supposed to be? That's the first half of the trap. Here's the second half, and this is the part that makes it specifically yours. While you were being told you could be anything, you were also being trained, quietly, in the exact opposite direction. You were being trained not to ask for things, not to name what you needed, not to make a fuss. A trait researcher looked at generational data recently and found that people your age score higher on self-control than any other adult generation currently measured, higher on delayed gratification, higher on the muscle that says, "I'll handle it, don't worry about me, I'm fine." You know that phrase, "I'm fine." It comes out of your mouth before your brain approves it. Someone asks how you're doing and "I'm fine" is already in the air. It's not a lie exactly, it's a reflex. A developmental psychology piece from this year called it a fluency in self-sufficiency that tips into an inability to ask for help. That's the polite version. The blunter version is, you were trained to suppress the sentence, "I want," until the sentence stopped forming. Now put those two things next to each other. Unlimited options. A person who was taught not to name what they need. What do you think comes out of that collision? Exactly what you're experiencing. The dairy aisle. The Sunday night stare at the ceiling. The strange, numb feeling when someone asks, "What would make you happy?" and your mouth opens and nothing comes out. You know what you don't want. You've become an expert at what you don't want. You could write a book on what you don't want. But when the question flips, the machine jams, because the machine was never built to answer that question. It was built to figure out what everyone else needed and then quietly meet it. Which brings us to right now, middle of your life. And this is where it starts to bite, because the numbers have shown up. There's a survey out this year from Schroders, a big financial firm that tracks retirement readiness across generations. 16% of people your age feel they've saved enough for retirement. 16, not 60. On average, people your age expect to have about $711,000 saved. They think they need about $1.1 million. That gap is roughly $400,000, and it's the biggest gap of any generation they measured. Northwestern Mutual's planning study this year found 54% of people your age think they will not be financially ready when the time comes. The number they say they'd need to retire comfortably is 1.57 million. Look around your kitchen. Ask yourself if that number lives in the same universe as your kitchen. And then there's a paper out of the Alliance for Lifetime Income's Retirement Income Institute, published in October, that came right out and said the quiet thing. People your age are looking at a retirement crunch bigger than the one their parents faced. Not smaller, bigger. Because your parents had pensions, actual pensions. Money that showed up whether they knew how to invest or not. You got a 401k and a pamphlet. You were the first generation asked to build your own retirement from scratch, out of paycheck scraps, while the market did what the market does. CNBC covered that same paper a few weeks ago and used the word robbed. That's not my word. That's the word being used in mainstream financial coverage right now. I'm telling you this not to bury you. I'm telling you this because it's the ground you're standing on when you try to answer the question, what do you want? You're not answering it from a blank field. You're answering it from a field with a $400,000 hole in it, while carrying 2 other people on your back, which is the next piece. Pew Research pulled the numbers a while back, and they still hold. More than half of Americans in their 40s have both a living parent who's 65 or older and a minor child or a financially dependent adult child. More than half. That means when you sit down to think about what you want, you're doing it in a house where your mother's medication refill is on the counter and your kid's tuition bill is in your inbox and your father just called about something with the car. Allianz Life put a study out this fall that measured what that pressure does to people financially. 75% of people in that caregiving squeeze said it's hard to juggle everyone's financial needs. 59% said they reduced or stopped saving for their own retirement to do it. 76% said the whole situation is genuinely stressful, and I'd argue that number should be higher, because the other 24% are probably lying to a survey the same way they lie to their spouse when they say, I'm fine. Notice what this does to the question. What do you want? The question requires you to sit still long enough to hear an answer from yourself. But you don't sit still. You get up before everyone else. You handle the thing. You drive the parent to the appointment. You text the kid about the deadline. You check the account. You put out the small fire and the medium fire, and by the time you look up, you're tired. And tired is not a state in which anyone knows what they want. Tired is a state in which people want to sit down. That's it. That's the whole want. Sit down. A therapist named Deborah Lupnitz, quoted in a book called Why We Can't Sleep by Ada Calhoun, said something that I think about a lot. She said what she sees in her patients your age is total exhaustion. And then this line, possibilities create pressure. Possibilities create pressure. Read that one twice. Every option you didn't take is a small weight. Every road you didn't walk is a small weight. And you've been offered more roads than any generation before you. So of course you're heavy. You're carrying every version of yourself you didn't get to be, and you're carrying your mother's prescriptions, and you're carrying your kid's future, and somebody wants to know what you want for your birthday. You want a nap. That's what you want. But that's not the answer they're looking for. Here's where it gets interesting though, because there's a study out of the University of Wisconsin called MIDAS, Midlife in the United States. It's been running for decades, tracking thousands of people through the middle stretch of their lives. And what it keeps finding, over and over, is that midlife is not the crisis pop culture sold you. It's a reorganization. Somewhere in this window, the goals that used to drive you, achievement, promotion, more, bigger, faster, quietly stop working. They don't fail dramatically. They just stop lighting up the board. And a different set of goals takes over. Meaning, connection, contribution, something that lasts past you. Here's why that matters for the question you can't answer. You can't tell yourself what you want because you're asking the old version of the question, the one from your 20s. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to buy? What do you want to be? Those questions are literally not the questions your brain is trying to answer anymore. Your brain has moved on. Your brain is asking a different question now, quietly, underneath everything. What matters? Who matters? What do you want the rest of this to be about? And you can't hear it because you're still trying to answer the old one. And the old one keeps coming up blank. That blank isn't emptiness. It's static. It's the wrong radio station. The signal is there. You just need to turn the dial. Let me give you the shape of what that looks like in real life, because I don't want to leave you in the abstract. You're driving home from work. You've had one of those days that wasn't bad and wasn't good. It was just a day. The kind you'll forget by Thursday. And a song comes on. Doesn't matter which one. And for 4 minutes, you feel something. Not nostalgia exactly. Something more like recognition. Like a version of you that used to exist just tapped you on the shoulder. And when the song ends, you sit in the driveway for another minute because you don't want to go inside yet. That minute in the driveway, that's the signal. That's your brain trying to tell you something about what matters. And you're about to overwrite it because your kid needs help with something, and there's a load in the dryer, and your father left a voicemail. You overwrite it every time. And then you wonder, 6 months later, why you can't answer the question. The self-control that got you here, the discipline, the delayed gratification, the ability to sit on your own needs while you handled other people's, that same trait is the one currently locking you out of the answer. It's not broken. It's just running the wrong program. It's still running the program from when you were 28 and grinding for something. But you're not 28, and the thing you're supposed to be grinding for now isn't external. It's the minute in the driveway. There's a piece to add here about permission, because I think this is where a lot of people your age get stuck. You are waiting, without realizing it, for someone to tell you it's okay to want something for yourself. You're waiting for the parent to be better, the kid to be launched, the account to hit some magic number, the calendar to open up. You're waiting for the conditions to be right, and the conditions are never going to be right, because there is always another prescription refill and another tuition bill and another thing with the car. Nobody is coming to give you that permission. Not your parents. They're the ones you're taking care of. Not your kids. They don't know they're supposed to. Not your employer, obviously. Not the culture, which has been telling you for 40 years that you're either too young or too old for whatever it is you're feeling right now. The permission comes from you or it doesn't come. And that's the piece that trips up a lot of people. Because you weren't trained to give yourself permission. You were trained to earn it. Grades, jobs, promotions, approval. You earned every good thing you ever got. Now the good thing is knowing what you want. And there's no one to earn it from. There's no one grading. There's just you. In the driveway, listening or not listening. So what do you actually do with any of this? Because I don't want to just diagnose you and walk off. That's a lousy thing to do. Try this. And this is small. Almost embarrassingly small. But small is the point. Because your machinery is jammed. And you don't fix a jam by yanking the lever harder. For a week, keep track of the minutes in the driveway. Not literal driveways. Any moment where something in you flickers. A conversation that lit you up more than it should have. A page in a book you read twice. A memory that came out of nowhere at the grocery store. A stranger doing something and you thought, I used to do that, or I never got to do that. Write them down, one line each. Don't analyze them. Don't build a 5-year plan around them. Just log them. At the end of the week, look at the list. That list is not a to-do list. It's not a bucket list. It's data. It's your brain telling you, in the only language it has left after all these years of being overridden, what actually matters to you now. Not what mattered at 28, not what your parents wanted, not what the ads told you. What matters now? You will be surprised by the list. It will not look like the life you're currently building. That's fine. You don't have to blow the life up. You have to let the list start informing the life. Which decisions get made, which invitations get accepted, which afternoons get protected. That's it. That's the whole trick. Not a productivity system, not a manifestation board. Just stop overriding the signal. Write it down, and then, once you can see it, stop pretending you can't. The reason you don't know what you want isn't because there's something wrong with you. It's because you were handed a menu the size of a phone book, trained not to order for yourself, taught to feed everyone else first, and then asked to answer a question in a language your brain has quietly stopped speaking. Of course you're stuck in the dairy aisle. Anyone would be. But the signal is still there. It's in the driveway. It's in the song. It's in the minute you didn't want to end. That minute is trying to tell you something, and it's been trying for a while. And the second half of your life is going to be a lot better if you finally sit still long enough to hear it. That's the whole thing. There's another video waiting on the screen. Go watch that one next. Actually, hold on. Before you close the tab and go back to your day, I want to sit on one more piece of this, because if I let you walk out on just keep a list, you'll do it for 3 days and forget by Saturday. I know you. So let me give you the part that makes the list actually stick. The reason the list works, and the reason most advice you've gotten in the last decade hasn't, is that it doesn't ask you to want something big. It asks you to notice something small. Big wants are exactly what your machinery can't produce right now. Ask yourself what you want your life to look like in 5 years, and you'll get static. Ask yourself which 2 minutes of yesterday you'd live again, and you'll get an answer before you finish the sentence. That's the crack in the door. Small is the crack. Big is the wall. And here's the other thing nobody tells you about this stretch of life. The people who come out the other side of it well, not rich, not famous, just people who at 65 look like they know who they are. They didn't figure it out in one big decision. They didn't quit the job and move to Portugal. They made 100 small decisions that all leaned in the same direction, over about a decade. And one day they looked up and the life had reorganized itself around what actually mattered to them. That's the whole move. That's it. You have time for that. Even with the $400,000 gap. Even with the parent and the kid and the car. You have time for 100 small decisions leaning the same direction. What you don't have time for is another 10 years of overriding the signal and hoping the answer arrives in the mail. It's not going to arrive in the mail. It's already in the driveway. You just have to stop pretending you can't hear it. All right, go watch the one on the screen. I think it's the right one for you next.